Have you ever wondered if the current astrological timing, the current planetary movements, are influencing certain parts of the world on the world map? Geodetic astrology is one of the most underrated, underhyped, yet easiest timing technique that we can use to make world predictions on the map. In today's episode of Cosmic Compass, the leading astrocartography and locational astrology podcast, we are sitting down to talk about this. Julija shares her predictions as well as the correlations between the geodetic map and what has happened transit-wise on the world stage. Before we get into today's episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast Cosmic Compass over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast episodes. Cosmic Compass. I'll include all the links in the description down below. And also don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell here on YouTube if you'd like me to keep making more videos here. Let's get started with today's episode with Julija Simas.
Hello and welcome back to Cosmic Compass, the leading astrocartography podcast where we talk all about locational astrology and predictive timing. And today I have the most incredible guest, Julija Simas, and she's from the Cosmic Intelligence Agency, the CIA. She has her own program and membership teaching astrology, and I'm so excited to have her on the show. Julija is the founder and chief astrologer at the CIA, the Cosmic Intelligence Agency. Julija has been practicing, teaching, and circulating astrology since starting the CIA in 2005. Having lectured and presented online and in many parts of the globe at various conferences, schools, and retreats, Julija devotes most of her time to the CIA, managing the membership, content, and speakers schedule, managing CIA's social media channels, and CIA's online Time Lords magazine. Julija is also a keen researcher, particularly interested in the cycles and patterns of our living cosmos. Julija, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on.
Well, thanks for inviting me. It's always great to talk about all the stuff we love to do. And astro-mapping, that is, one of the favorites for sure.
Yeah, there's something really powerful about location and how places have stories for us in the world, and how when certain time periods happen or we have transits or eclipses, certain parts of the world are activated and we see it on the news or we get information sent to us. And I am so fascinated by predictive mundane astrology with location. And I'm so excited to talk with you because you're an expert in all of this geodetic astrology, astrocartography. And so it's a great honor to have you on. So tell us, because a lot of our listeners are astrologers or they're building their own businesses or learning locational astrology. How did you get to where you are?
Well, a lot of time and a lot of effort, a lot of interest and devotion. I think there's a huge part of astrology once you do, your, let's say, allocated studies, as in, the official ones. There's just so much more to learn. There's just so much more. So I studied, a 5-year diploma with very good astrologers, but it was psychological based. But all this kind of stuff, we hardly did any astrocartography. So, it's like it wasn't part of the diploma, or it wasn't offered, right? So as you go and do it more, you find these sort of gaps of missing, techniques or information that you haven't done before, and you gather it up from everywhere you can, you know. And of course, these days there's so much more everywhere in the sense of, what do you call it? YouTube, and you can learn so much there. But, a lot of people are somewhat probably lazier these days to take a course if they're interested. Like if we look at, I know there's this big group on Facebook on, astro mapping and astrocartography, and all the questions that are asked, it's almost like, oh, would you just get a consultation, please?
Oh my gosh, I know. I've seen that group.
Oh,
And
yeah. Right.
and also a lot of like I say the TikTokers in astrocartography, because astrocartography got really big with TikTok. and the pandemic. And so many of them are teaching courses and workshops and all the things, and they've never read about Jim Lewis, or they don't even know who Jim Lewis is, or they've never read his book. And it's just mind-boggling to me, because I'm such a big believer in go hard in learning, take all the courses, read all the books, and then start talking about it online. So it's so important, especially in this day and age.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you hear things of, the Venus line or the Jupiter line is the line you have to go to. But really, if your Venus is afflicted, aspected differently, you take your psychology with you. So, it's just incredible that, that's not sort of recognized as like astrologers do the whole chart and recognize everything to synthesize before saying, I think, Perth is a really good place for you this year or something, and really big decisions that, become so frivolous. Like, I'm going to move, or asking questions like, I live in Germany, but where in the world would I live? Well, again, there's all conditions for all kinds of things, isn't there? You can't just go and live anywhere in the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? More likely if it was an Australian, somewhere in Australia. It depends on the situation. So there's so many things to weigh up, and that sort of frivolity, sure, it's a little bit of fun and exploring. But serious questions like, we are responsible as astrologers to how we guide people, and we take that seriously.
Yeah, it's so important. Do you also use relocation charts as well, as in conjunction with the maps?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
The beautiful thing about, doing a natal chart on an ACG map, for instance, is you can see straight away where location, what's going to be showing up in Rome. And as AstroGold, I use AstroGold. So there's this incredible tool now where you can click, a button and just scroll anywhere in the world and it will pull up the chart. Like it's just automatic. So, you're just watching the chart turn, and it's a really good way to learn astrology too, to understand how everything turns, which way, the planets are turning and all that kind of stuff. So you teach it to your students so they will learn how things move around the chart.
Totally.
Oh,
Yeah, Astro Gold just made that feature, I think, last summer. And oh my God, it's stunning. It just makes it so much easier. You don't have to pull up individual relocation.
yeah, that's right. It's all there. Same with local space, and yeah, it's fantastic.
How did you build your business? Like, how did you build your membership, the Cosmic Intelligence Agency? Where did that come about? Was that an idea that came about during a transit, or a certain, what inspired you?
It's, in the last sort of 2 years of finishing my official kind of diploma studies, and I was reading a lot of texts because I was very much interested about putting like the astrology that we know for ourselves, natal astrology, and, the work that we do to understand ourselves. It was the idea of putting that onto to a collective idea that we can help heal the world, get the world to know, understand what it's going through on a collective level. And in the sense of like the anima mundi, how would we work with astrology to put our intentions to help guide and, sort of oversee things as an agency. And so that's what we did. So the word came up because I was reading a lot of texts that had the words cosmic intelligence in them, like you're reading Rick Tarnas or, all kinds of things. And the word cosmic intelligence just kept coming up, and I'm going, oh my God, I love it. And then the agency just sort of came together with that. And it became with a few astrologers that I was kind of studying with. We had our own kind of group, and we had a mundane group, and we had a horary group, and this one day I said, hey, I've got this great idea. We should start the Cosmic Intelligence Agency. So it began with a group of dedicated, 5 agents in Melbourne, and then it grew around the world, meeting people, and astrologers just pretty much going, what a great idea. It was the idea that, even back in 2005, when I did sort of buy the CIA name, of the web name, people all we still saw, and the internet was relatively new in a sense. You could still just see all the sun sign stuff and, Pisces being cutesy fish and rams, and it was just not our thing. And it's like astrology's got so much more to offer than what most of the world understands it like. So our mission became be a loud and proud astrologer, that you do real astrology in the world and you don't have to succumb to simplifying it. We wanted people to learn the language. We wanted people to understand what aspect, what things mean, what archetypes, the planets represent. So that became our mission. So we became agents on a mission to get astrology out there. And then social media came around and it sort of blew up for us in a sense of like, people loved it, astrologers loved it, and, followed us and joined. And yeah, it sort of took off from there. And we're still at it, but there's a lot more happening than there was, back in 2006. I think we got our first web page up or something.
Wow. Oh my gosh, that's incredible. And
Yeah.
I always find that great communities and memberships and businesses, they often start when you notice a gap in the market, when you notice that there's something missing within your field that you're doing, and so
Yeah.
you want to create a solution to fill that gap. That's what inspired me to go into
Yeah.
astrophotography was I took the classes and read the books, and then I noticed on TikTok, right, there was a gap in the market of simplifying astrocartography. Just go to a Jupiter line, just go to a Venus line. And I was like, whoa, 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 no, look at the chart, right? And then I, talking about local space, talking about relocation charts, and it motivated me and fueled me to start a business. And that's literally what my mission has been ever since. And it's all about noticing those gaps.
Yeah. And also what inspires you. It's like, again, wanting astrology from our perspective to be understood as a real thing and not making it dumbifying it. Or, a lot of people were saying, look, we don't know what you're talking about. I said, well, if you want to know, just keep listening. um, and really the language is out there because we have our own language, and the language now of astrology is out there. And still needs more work, in the sense, but we keep saying the mission worked.
Yes. Oh, yes. It's amazing. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. Well, there's a lot of us involved, not just the CIA. There's many.
Yeah. Yeah. And astrology's gotten so big with Neptune and Pisces, especially, with Pluto going through and hitting a lot of my generation have Uranus and Neptune conjunct in
Yes,
Capricorn. So when Pluto hit those planets, it was like all of my people in my age group got really into astrology. So fascinating.
powered by the amazingness of it all. Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, with Pluto on my ascendant, I remember. At 21 Sag back in late 90s. So, it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Everyone needs to do this. Everyone needs to, know something about it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I love that you're Sag rising. All of my people, my mentors, my close kindred spirits, they often have Sag rising. I love that. That's so fun. Well, I'm a Scorpio rising, but I have Jupiter on my ascendant. So I think that's where the travel, the love of travel and all that comes from.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's talk about your work doing geodetic astrology. Tell us, what is geodetic astrology?
So, geodetic astrology is an astrology chart on the world map, as we understand ACG. But it's in a fixed map. So it begins at zero meridian, which is through Greenwich, right? So everything is aligned with zero Greenwich. And then we segregate the chart of 30 degrees all the way around the world map to come back around, right? So we've got the 12 segments of all the signs going east of Greenwich all the way around, right? And then from the equator, we also kind of cut, they become flowing lines. So every place in the world has a geodetic coordinate, right? So it's very easy to work out. Let's say for instance, Israel is 5 degrees Taurus on the geodetic map, which is then 35 degrees east, right? So if we understand the zodiac as the zodiacal longitude, right? So that, Capricorn is 270, right? That kind of thing. So can always easily find the coordinate for the midheaven, but the ascending degrees is a little bit more tricky. You need software for that. Yeah.
Mm.
Right.
So certain parts of the world are connected to certain zodiac signs at specific degrees.
Yeah.
Is that right? And the Aries starts in the London, England. It goes
And
down.
Neptune's right there now, right? Neptune's right there at Zodiac right now. So we know that 0 Aries and any cardinal point is a world point. So anything around the 0 cardinals will always bump into that 0 point, right? Even if it was 0 Libra, then it would mean it was on the IC there. So we've got Aries on the MC, we've got 0 Libra. I mean, we've got the opposite on the bottom in that sense, okay? 'Cause it's the IC. So it works like that. And so London has the coordinates of 0, or Greenwich, let's say 0, because London is actually 28 Pisces, right? Or 29, right? Because Greenwich is a bit more to the right. So all of Europe then from that point, Ireland's still in Pisces, right? But from that point up until, let me just check my map here because it's in front of me, up until through Istanbul or just before Istanbul is 0 Taurus, right? So all of that area is Aries all the way down, okay? And Aries is on the MC for all that meridian all the way down for 30 degrees. And then we go to the next 30-degree segment, which starts, from Istanbul up and down. And as I was saying, Israel is 5 degrees of Taurus, right? And so on, okay? So where things are at the moment, we've got Saturn and Neptune meeting, at that 0 point. There's a lot of things at the end of Pisces. Now, all that end of Pisces also goes through Spain, right? Where Neptune was, where what's still there? The node is still there. Ceres and Saturn are still there. And Venus was there and Mercury was there, not, still not longer. We had the big blackout in Spain and into France, right? And all those lines are through there at the moment, okay, on the geodetic map, for instance. Like in the USA, Washington coordinates, I just got to remember what they are, 13 degrees of Capricorn MC. Okay, so now we're in the Capricorn zone at that sort of east coast of the USA and Canada.
So geodetic astrology, it's really used for mundane astrology and world events. And
yes, but you can still relate it to yourself around the world. Again, as I was saying to you, as we just sort of started talking, I always, like, if I'm going to be looking at someone's astro maps for, what's coming up or the year ahead, or if they want to move, I will do all the maps together. Like I will do ACG, I will do geodetic, and I will do local space. And you get more convinced if you see things more overlapping instead of relying on one line showing you something, right?
yeah,
Because so I've learned that it's like when you do any mundane astrology, for instance, or a reading for anyone, you won't just rely on the birth chart. You'll do the transits, you'll do progressions, you'll do solar arcs, or whatever else you do. So yeah, you need to have a few things to know then that you synthesize that information and go, okay, as an astrologer, I am seeing that this is going to be your best move or motivation for now, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that kind of thing.
What do you do when a client has, let's say, amazing astrocartography lines, really strong in their chart, well placed? They got great, they got a local space line going through there. They got a great relocation chart for what they're looking for in their lives, but they have a really hard geodetic line going through that area. Can that be a deal breaker in terms of whether someone moves there or not? Or is it
just make them aware of that? Like there's also, okay, let's just put Pluto there or something, with all this great stuff, so you would just add it to the story. I wouldn't make it a deterrent because again, we have to think about the geodetic map as very symbolic. I also kind of think about it in a sense, although it really works and it's eerily significant. And the more you do it, the more you see, of course. But it's almost like a sun sign map of the world in a sense, because you see planets moving, like the sun's in Taurus now and it's moving, through that part of the world. Or like, for instance, like the map for right now, we have Mars at 11 degrees of Leo. And so 12 degrees of Leo is the ascendant of Israel. Okay. So we know that that is getting, it's very close there. But the other thing is, on the geodetic map, Mercury is in early Taurus now and is going to move over 5 degrees of Taurus, which is its midheaven. So I'm looking at that going, well, there's going to be some really big news, although, it's horrific there every day and whatever we see. What is that going to highlight that might change the dynamic going on there right now? Right? So, yeah, so we got 12 degrees of Leo rising and 5 degrees, what do you call it, MC in Israel. So again, hotspots, the crossing lines you can still see that you used to, but again, they're fixed, right? So they're not hopping around the world in 24 hours. They're just moving slowly. The other thing is the moon moves through all the time, right? So the moon is really interesting to watch. Like I said, did I say about the Pope? No. So when the white smoke was revealed that a new Pope has been elected, we didn't know that he was from Chicago. But that moment of 6:08 p.m. on the 8th of May or whatever it was, on the geodetic map, had the moon and Venus opposite each other exactly. And they were going right through Chicago on the geodetic map. So you see these things and go, oh my goodness, we didn't know he was from Chicago, but there was something telling us about the popularity, Venus, moon, through Chicago, voila, right? So this kind of thing, and I see it all the time, like in so many ways. So what got me more and more interested in this is that besides the book, Chris McRae's book, you might have seen it, right? So I've got that, and it's got the list of not all the. So I kind of started from there and thought, there's just not enough information about this, right? There's not enough people looking at this. So it became, kind of an obsession. Like, I'm looking at it all the time. People go, thanks, Julia, for telling us this. But so in a sense, I see it as very predictive. I think it's very hard to predict with ACG maps, because there's Aries ingress charts, there's eclipse charts. Again, if you want to really look at hotspot in the world, you need to look at a few charts, right? Not just rely on one. Full moon charts, all kinds of stuff, or Mars opposite Pluto chart, all that kind of stuff. But the geodetic maps are just incredibly accurate. So there's something about the magic of a collective, kind of force that binds us all, so to speak, from this meridian, right? But having said that, the meridian wasn't always Greenwich. Like, the meridian in Greenwich was only chosen in 1884 or something, right? Before that, it was, some astrologers used Egypt, the pyramids. Way back in Ptolemy's time, they used through Israel, they used Jerusalem as the zero coordinate. So that's thousands of years ago, 2,000 years ago. And if you look at that coordinate, right, through Bethlehem, if you go up, again, as I'm saying, Mercury is heading right there, 5 degrees of Taurus. We are on the line where the huge earthquake happened in Turkey a few years ago. Go up the line and it goes to Moscow, and it goes through the east of Ukraine and through Syria.
Oh my God.
So, in a way, it's almost like, well, that meridian seems to be still very much alive.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think there's just so much more to explore, right?
Yeah.
With all of this, and again, not enough being sort of, talked about in that sense.
No. Geodetic astrology is one of those those topics you can't find information on online. Like Chris,
I need to write a book.
yes, please do. Please do. Because I've read a couple of books on it. There's the Theory of Equivalence book that's out there. There's Chris McRae's book, which I'll include links to those books down below in the show notes for those listening and want to read. And Chris McRae, she was a big pioneer with this work. She was teaching this until
She joined Ups and Ages. Sadly she died, yes, a few years ago. Yeah.
But she was teaching this till the very end. She was traveling and going to all the places. Inspiring. But yeah, it's been really hard for me just in my own personal research to make any predictions with the astrocartography. The only thing that I've been able to use is like world leaders charts, like presidents. Like Trump has his Mars ascendant line going right through DC. And I think Jim Lewis did a lot of research that Mars and Pluto and Mars Neptune, there tends to be themes with world leaders, with relationships with other countries, wherever those lines are with those leaders. So those are places I'm looking at with Trump over the next couple of years, 3-4 years. But and then the only chart that I really use for the world, for like, predictive is the US Sibley chart.
Right.
And I did notice that, the Uranus line is going right through the east coast of the U.S. And with the Uranus return coming up for the U.S., do you think that's an area in the U.S. to really be paying attention to when Uranus is exactly on its return?
It's cycling back, to that spot, of course, it's returning and highlighting that for sure, big time,
Yeah.
I was just going to say, so the US coordinates, as I said, 23 Aries is rising, and 23 Aries is on the Libra is on the MC in Beijing. So you see these, oppositions going on around the world. We've got USA and China battles going on. World leaders again, logging into particular coordinates. So it's really interesting to watch. And for your own self, like let's say, I'm a 21 degrees Sagittarius rising and 21 Pisces sun. MC is 1 Virgo. So every place, there's 4 places in the world where those will kind of, if it's Sydney, I was born in Sydney, so the 0 there and Sag rising. And then there'll be a place in the world where Sagittarius is on the MC. Do you know what I mean? And we get the opposite. So there's 4 places in the world that will respond to your exact coordinates, right? So you need to find those, right? So that's really interesting. I've done a study with the geodetic places in the world that respond to the fire signs, Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. And they are the most fire-prone zones in the world, right? I know it's pretty so the east coast of America, so Los Angeles fires, now that is a Leo descendant zone, right? Leo is descending in that area. So that's Leo. Australia, the east coast of Australia, also notorious for big fires, is Sagittarius rising. Oh, through what do you call it? Through Brazil, the rainforest is always burning, or there's something always burning there. That has Leo on the IC, right? So those kind of things, again, there's just so much more to kind of do with it all, right?
Yeah. And so literal. I mean, I wonder if water signs, there's big hurricanes or, in those water areas.
Time to do that. But so at the moment, also, like we know that the, all that conglomeration of Pisces and Aries planets is around the Greenwich meridian and going down. But it's also rising through Mexico and the Gulf of, the Gulf of Mexico. Again, it's been renamed somewhat, to the Gulf of America. And it's just funny seeing all those planets right through there, like a geodetic map. Okay.
Wow.
And so just over the line from halfway through the Gulf, we get to Aries. So that's Pisces, and then we get to Aries, where Venus is now at 10 degrees of Aries. But there was an eclipse last year at 10 degrees of Libra. And not long after, or just before, there was a Hurricane Helena. And it was exactly at 10 degrees. It was exactly through that area. Like the 10 degrees on the geodetic map is right through where the hurricane went.
Wow.
So I can send you a map of that, because seeing that is like, okay, and the hurricane was called Helena as well.
Yeah. So, for those beginners to this that are, dipping their toes and learning this, what are the top things to look at? Obviously, eclipses, so the exact degree of the eclipse
Yeah.
and where that's happening.
Yes.
What else do you look at? Mars stations, full moons? Like, what else do you look at?
If you've got the geo map, you can see everything just moving and changing signs, and slowly sort of going across or through like this if they're ascending lines, or moving down if they're descending lines. So you can watch them day to day, and it won't move fast. And of course, a retrograde zone, I've sort of done maps where I've put in the Mars retrogrades or the Venus retrogrades, especially those and Mercury retrogrades, because you can see the kind of hot spots there, of what will be happening. And then the moon, of course, the moon moving fast, but the moon, like in all astrology, is a trigger. So what was it? There was an earthquake at southern Argentina not that long ago as well. The eclipse line went through there, like the eclipse prior to that earthquake, again, it was 6 weeks prior or something, but we always look at eclipses to tell a longer story. There was, so ACG eclipse line went through there, but at the day of the earthquake, the geodetic moon went through the IC there. Exactly. At the time of the eclipse. I mean, at the time of the earthquake. I've seen that with the earthquake in Turkey. This is the whenever that was, 2022, I think it was. That really sparked my interest because it was so accurate. There was a full moon just before that, right through the area, and the earthquake happened and so on the geodetic map, it was like 28 Leo or something like that, ascending or something like that. It was Leo area. And it was just that the light was right through the eclipse. I came crossing the node,
Wow.
rising and crossing the node. So, I've always said we need more people on the job.
Yes. And I think this is a market that hasn't been fully tapped yet, is looking at geodetic astrology with world events, especially with where we're going right now. These huge transits coming up. I think we need more astrologists. I'm always encouraging people to learn astrology because I think we need all hands on deck, during these times, people with big hearts that, yeah.
Well, there's a lot of people, but it's the coordinating of it. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
everyone's talking snippets all over the place, and you know, it's kind of stuff I've thought about as the CIA and as well. But lots of work, lots of work. You need agents in every corner, and recording. And I've always thought, oh, it'd be great to have this kind of constant stream that someone's always reporting, but it has to be in one place. Like it's almost like it's so separate. Like, where am I going to find all this information? There's 10 astrologers I follow, but so you've got repeating stuff. So we want constant stuff, but not necessarily repeated, like just keeping up to date, like a kind of is just a constant stream. Like this is happening. And, so one agent's working for an hour and the next one comes on and, so that's always been my kind of dream to do something like that.
Oh.
So we need some people.
Yes, I love that. It's like being a weather forecaster, a news reporter for the astrology with the world. It's
Yeah.
incredible.
But it's got to be in one spot again,
Yeah.
because it's all just all over the place and hard to, gather up and, all that kind of things.
Yeah. So we talked about the full moons, eclipses, big transits like a Mars Pluto opposition. Where is that happening? And you use Astro Gold to see the moving geodetic lines.
Yes.
Okay, great.
The graphics are very clear on Astro Gold, yeah. And again, being able to move things. I mean, you don't need to move things for the geo maps, really.
Yeah.
It's just getting, again, you've got a fixed map. So any chart you'll slot in, if you've got Aries planets, they're going to be over Europe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Taurus planets are going to be in that next segment. And then getting to know the rising and setting points is a little bit trickier. Starts from the middle. Let's just say the Aries point at the equator, we get Cancer crossing, right? So the next cardinal crosses, right? 90 degrees over, we get Cancer at the midheaven and we get Libra crossing, right? We get the next cardinal point crossing. And then at Libra, we've got Capricorn crossing, right? And at Capricorn, we've got Aries crossing again. And that's where the USA is, right? Capricorn MC, or, Washington side, and Aries rising, right? So getting to know those four kind of main segments, then filling in more of the segments, you get your slices of the pie, so to speak, and they're fixed. So anytime you get to know that area and go, okay, I know Mexico City is, Pisces ascending and Sagittarius MC. Let's just say we've got a square between, the node and, I don't know, whatever's going to be in Sagittarius, or Jupiter's there now on the IC, right? Through that area. So you always the mutable signs, the mutable area, right? The cardinal areas. You get to know that. So it's kind of like, triggers to, again, you just look at the map and you can see. But, it's those kind of things. And also just to know that every day the coordinates, of an MC and an ascendant will be somewhere in the world, right? Or triggered everywhere in the world, as would your own astrology chart. So there's a whole other kind of area to tap into, right?
Yeah.
Like oracle astrology. I am developing this kind of, like we do, let's say, as we used to understand it more as horary. We ask a question of the cosmos and, you do a chart, and, doing that with astro-mapping is very interesting. I've done that for, clients or consultation charts, so it's on the spur kind of thing. Is it a good year to travel, or that kind of stuff? You do it on the spot and see what you see. And many years ago, I remember doing a consultation for a friend who was deciding where to travel. So I did a horary chart, and, but you have to decipher the horary chart and what you know first. Okay. So what's in the ninth house? I think it was Mars and Venus in the ninth house. So I put it on the map and saw where Mars and Venus were, for this travel thing. And one like MC through Thailand and IC through South America. And I said, well, it's South America or, Asia, that Asia sort of area. And they decided to go to Thailand because it was the two places they were thinking of as well. So, again, we see that magic working all the time, but you have to get used to using the magic. You have to be convinced you know what you're doing as well to answer the question properly. So, yeah. Anyway, that's experience.
It's beautiful. I love that. Yeah, when I'm timing trips, I usually look at the progressions and the transits over the area on the relocation chart. And then of course, like looking at my own transits, is it a good time to travel? Is it a harder time to travel? But solar returns.
Free yourself up from that too by doing like an oracle in a sense, or a consultation. Like a consultation chart has been used, for centuries, as well as in tying up the whole experience, right? Like I'm leaving you with this, an astrologer will be looking at the consultation chart. Oh, she's come to me with Mars rising. So I know that there's something really, like things related. So looking at the timing of a consultation, will always give you more information as well. So like as in tonight, as we're talking, Mars is right over Japan on the geodetic chart.
Wow.
Right through where you are.
Yes.
So, and are you in Tokyo?
I'm in Kyoto.
Oh, Kyoto. So hang on, let me just see if that's in the book here. but I know it's Leo. Oh, hang on, where is it? Yeah, it's Leo midheaven up there, and yeah, right through Kyoto.
I have Leo on the midheaven, the moon on the midheaven with Leo there. That's wild.
Right. Yeah,
Wow.
okay. Yeah, JK, it's not on here. See, this book's missing a whole lot, but I can see from here that it's right in
Wow.
southern Japan. Yes.
It's incredible. That's another question I wanted to ask you. Thinking about like the personal, like people who are listening who want to look at their geodetic lines on a personal level. Um, so the geodetic line is kind of like a symbolic undercurrent, so to speak. So, like an example, I live on my Saturn and my Venus lines in Paris, but I have a Mars MC geodetic line going right through where I live.
Okay.
So there's some sort of undercurrent of
Mars is in Aries.
yes, Mars is in Aries. Yeah.
To go through there, it has to be in Aries. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Fascinating. So it's like an undercurrent.
Yeah, well, it might be more obvious than an undercurrent too. Why did you move to Paris? What was the reason?
I moved there for my husband's job.
Husband
And
Mars.
yes, I love that. And my husband has his Mars MC and Sun MC there.
Hey, right.
Astrocartography line.
Right. Has he got Aries planets?
No, he doesn't. But it's in his 7th house and his descendant.
Libra planets and also, Capricorn or Cancer planets can be also very, squaring all that area and stuff. And squares, in this sense, make things more dynamic as opposed to a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
So I don't see squares as a negative aspect. I see them as a dynamic aspect. It's like, things will happen there. Like just recently, one of our CI people was very concerned for going to Bali because Mars line went through there. And I'm going, okay, well, what are you going there for? And it was actually to get a certificate in yoga or something. And I said, well, it's a no-brainer. You have to go. Do you want the certificate? Like, so anyway, she thanked me a lot after it because she was so scared of going there. And so, what are we scared of? This is awful about how astrocartography can be putting off people from, experiences that are necessary. I said, well, you need to go there because obviously it's part of your, work and what you want to achieve. So, Mars is about go and do it, go push past it. So anyway, Mars on the MC there, it adds an extra flavor.
Yeah. I love that you brought that up because I get so many clients that are so afraid of Pluto lines, of Saturn lines, and some of the most successful people I know live on their Pluto lines. I live on my Saturn ascendant line. It's the place where
I see. Yes.
Yeah. I found my life's work on that line. I stepped into responsibility and meaning and purpose. And it's like, I think we've got to stop being afraid of the lines. And it's something I'm constantly trying to repeat because I say it once and then people forget. I got to say it again.
But the reasons that we summon an astrologer, like in the old days, it was called making a judgment, right? And so people don't know how to make the right judgment because they don't know enough information or they're taking it the wrong way. And again, astrology is about synthesizing everything together, right? And that's experience. So, do a lot of charts, as we know, we have to do a lot of charts to be convinced. We have to convince ourselves that this is really something and this is really working, right? And we don't have to be in a place, as you know, to have lines activated, right? Like in one class that I did, I remember a friend or one of the students was, oh my God, I called my daughter Alaska and I've never been to Alaska, but my Venus goes through Alaska, right? So stuff like that. We don't have to have gone to Alaska to have a meaningful connection to Alaska, or the name at least, right? And there's plenty of stories like that. So you don't have to send people there. You can be for work. It can be for, let's say, advertising, marketing. You can use it for so many different things as opposed to you need to go to that line, right?
Totally. Totally.
To live there, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, all so many great versions of how it works for people.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I do a lot of work with Irish agents, and my sun line goes through there. Right. I've never been to Ireland. My sun and Mercury go right through Ireland, you know? So
Incredible.
yeah, I've been close.
Yeah. I just interviewed Bill Meridian and also Elliot Tanzer, and he gave me a really cool example of like he had a speaking engagement on a Mercury MC line. He just went there for a one-time conference
Yeah,
to speak
yeah,
about astrology, but that's where it was, and it's so cool how like life will bring
yeah,
you to places or
yeah,
people from certain
yeah,
areas of the world will connect you. I just
yeah,
find
yeah, yeah, yeah.
fascinating. I have so many descendant lines going through Melbourne.
All
And
right.
so I find a lot of
Well, here I am.
I know a lot of connections with people going through that area. So it's
Yeah,
really cool.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um a couple of questions before we wrap up. A lot of my listeners on YouTube specifically love predictions and world predictions with the places and all of that location. Do you have any thoughts, predictions, or forecasts for places to keep an eye out for during the next year or this year?
Uh, in the geodetic map, or
Yeah.
well, Israel in the next few days or week, because of the Mars going through there and Mercury catching it in a sense. Um, let me see. With Saturn moving over the Greenwich Point and meeting Neptune and coming back and forward, both of them, we know that that's a world point. So again, significant attention to world leaders, as we have been seeing, like what are they doing about what's going on? I think there's quite a lot more to come now that Saturn is going to get to zero Aries and move back and forward. When Jupiter was there a few years ago, the Queen died. Again, so big influential. We've had the Pope die with Neptune crossing that zero point. So with Saturn, there might be some really big repercussions for a lot of things that have been going on, right? With
Yeah.
Saturn down to that zero point and back over a few times in the next
Yeah.
in the next 8 months or so. So I think that is a really decisive. I think Neptune is quite. It's not. It moves somewhere, and with Pluto, we really saw Pluto moving into Aquarius and coming into that shift of from Capricorn to Aquarius with AI and this whole sort of shift in gear. With Saturn, I think we see it much more clearer, much more upfront. It's a quicker moving planet than Neptune or Pluto, so we get the recall a lot, sort of more in our faces. So I think there's something coming for a big world leader.
Wow. And this is when Saturn enters zero Aries, and this is the Greenwich
Yeah,
location, that area. And
but then that's triggering all the other sort of world points, and across the world, because that's the point that sort of affects everyone. Right?
wow.
Not just London. It's a worldwide thing. Like I said, the Queen, although she was English, she had a lot of influence in the world, right? And that's when Jupiter crossed there 3 times in 2022 or whatever it was. There was three elections as well, three different prime ministers. Uh, Neptune now with the Pope, right? Having just left and a new one. And now Saturn, I have not really, although Saturn, let's just say Saturn, when it went into Aries back in 90, let's say, was it 1992 and all that kind of thing?
It was 90, like 6.
Oh,
Saturn was,
right.
yeah, it was later,
And
96.
questions of, well, before that, it was all the Soviet Union falling apart, all that kind of thing. So there's more to come about some new ways forward, but I think very much connected to some kind of world leadership or the chaos that we're in now with Saturn in Pisces is going to be cleared up. a lot.
Interesting. Yeah, because I know on a transit level, Saturn Neptune conjunction in Aries often brings up a lot of Russia themes.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And so,
Not so
yeah,
much Aries, just Saturn and Neptune conjunctions. Like the 37-year, 36-year cycle is always to do with Russia. But again, now that it's at a world point, we've never had it at a world point. Makes it much more dynamic, right? So
yeah.
so again, something that affects, maybe, a world leader that's very influential all around the world. So
Do you have any advice for just the common people listening to this? All of us, like listening to the astrology, writing down our dates in the calendars. What advice do you have for us?
well, with the geodetic maps, I really would go and study and mark all the spots that have your coordinates, as in, again, you're going to have a place in the world where your sun's rising, where your sun's setting, where your sun's on the ascendant, where your sun, all those four corners. Do it for your ascendant, do it for your sun, do it for your descendant, and see. I mean, mark, do a map, draw on it, and see what it means to you. And you'll be surprised what you find. You'll find, oh my God, I've been there, or I fell in love with someone from there, or, my sister lives there, or, again, like ACG, what we find with that. You'll be surprised what you find with the geodetic map as well. And yeah, I mean, again, lots of exploring. Use it I use it for solar returns as well, that kind of thing. I use it for local space, for, kind of re-feng shuiing my house or office for the year, that kind of stuff. And it's really fun. And the more you get into it, you're more very much aligned with that sort of magical living that astrology is what we do it for, I think,
Yeah.
or, so we're living in it, we're living with it. It's not just living, we're not just it's not just happening. We are part of it, right? We are part of it. And, honoring that and honoring the gods and, that kind of thing. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful
Yeah.
way to live. Yeah.
It really is. And I love how simple it is too. Geodetic astrology. It's 30 degrees, zodiac signs. Look at your chart, where are your planets at the degrees in those zodiac signs,
Right.
and place them on the map, the coordinates, and you could find those hot spots for you. That's just incredible.
That's right. That's right. And just
Wow.
remember, the opposite points and also the squaring points are very, it's all related. It's not just one thing's by itself, because everything will bring it all together. Will also bring it all together as well. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Incredible. Well, where can people find you? How can people work with you or join your program, the agency?
Well, first of all, go to our website, cosmicintelligenceagency.com. Everything's there. You can join a membership. Like if someone's interested in, let's say, a more serious class, there's one online for 2.5 hours with me, talking about putting all this mapping together, right? From sacred maps way before any of this was even done, to using and, example charts, Julian Assange's chart in all these three methods I've done, and progression. So it's a really intense look at that. So that's on the website. Maybe I'll send you the link so you can buy that, a good lesson in it, I suppose. And we do have a membership where something like what I just talked about is free for the membership. So you sign up for the membership for a year, and we have got 150 amazing webinars there that you can access. And it's not just me, it's amazing astrologers like Bill Meridian and Wendy Stacy and, people that teach all over the world. We kind of gathered them up, Mark Jones. I asked them to we have one about every 2 or 3 weeks with a different speaker on an amazing topic, current topics, and then techniques as well, or, what we just talked about today. So there's a wealth of information there, and probably not so much for beginners, but, if you're into astrology and know enough, you're going to learn a lot more, put it that way. So we're willing to offer that. And we also have a magazine, so an online magazine called Time Lords, which I've written a lot about geodetic maps in there, so you can scroll through that. It's all on the website. And then, of course, we have a Facebook page, although social media is so different now. We do have a YouTube channel all under the same name as well. We don't do as much YouTube as you do, Helena. We're sort of busier in the background or something. But we do have a 1.2 million Facebook page, so you can join us there. That's again social media stuff. Some is shared there, or you can follow me, which is Julija Simas on Facebook, and that's where I kind of, I don't know, share things that I've found, like to my friends and colleagues and followers. So
Amazing. Well, I want to join the membership and take all the classes.
yeah, I'll
It's
love to. Yeah.
my brain, it's insatiable. I'm always wanting to learn more, and I'm so excited to join your program. And I'll include all the links down below in the show notes so those of you can sign up and learn. What an honor to have you on. Like, seriously, thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure, and good luck with everything you do and putting out the good word there for astrology and astro-maps. Yeah, I think there's a lot more to do there. We need a worldwide conference or something.
Oh my gosh, that would be incredible. A locational astrology conference. Can you imagine? Oh, I gotta say, it's so up and coming. So many people are becoming locational astrologers and specializing in this now. I'm so excited for this new wave of people
I was
coming in.
recently asked to do 2 talks for an event in Sydney and Melbourne for a hotel chain.
Wow. Incredible.
Coming through yet because it's still kind of in the pipeline. But they said astrocartography is a trending topic and we're very interested. So for a hotel chain that wants to expand, I'm going, oh, okay.
Oh
Sounds
yeah.
great. Yeah.
Cruise ships are starting to use it too now. It's what they want to help their guests plan routes with their maps. Crazy. What an exciting time to be doing this.
Yeah. Well, keep it real and keep it good, and
Yeah.
we will do it well together.
Yes. Oh, well, thank you so much, Julia.
My
Amazing.
pleasure. All the best. Enjoy Tokyo.
It was such an honor to have Julija come on the show and speak on Cosmic Compass. You can find all of her links down below in the show notes, her classes, and her membership program. And also don't forget to subscribe to Cosmic Compass over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast episodes. New episodes drop every week. And if you want to do a deeper dive on astrocartography, you know where to go. All the links are in the description. Have a magical day and happy astro travels.